I realized I left this part out yesterday, so continuing in the spirit of October time, of Halloween time, we're going to continue with the scary video. And today we're going to talk about the time I met a serial killer. Oh yeah, I met a serial killer in the affordable housing property managing affordable housing, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. Is that I'm not trying to scare you, I'm not trying to scare you off, I'm not trying to intimidate you. I just want to let you know the reality of the job that you're working in, and that, to be honest with you, you don't know who lives here. Yeah, after a year or so, once you start working everyone's paperwork, you start getting an idea of who's who. But when you first start out, you might not know who's here. Okay. I don't know if you guys know Jeffrey Dahmer, and if you've watched the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary on Netflix. It's a new one. But I don't know if you picked up on it, but that was affordable housing. He lived in low income housing. It literally says right there, low income housing, specifically tax credit. He was in a tax credit property. And the one thing I want to ask myself in that situation is, where the fuck was the manager? Seriously, where the fuck was the manager in that situation? How the fuck can the manager seriously let all that shit happen? I bet you the manager was involved. Because you're telling me that you have all these things going on there, and the manager never once did a unit inspection, never once did a wellness check, never once filed the noise complaint. After three noise complaints, this grounds for eviction. So they should really check where the fuck the manager was at, because that was a garbage ass manager. Anyways, that's the whole point of this whole thing, is that you don't know who lives here. There could be a freaking serial killer living next to you, and think about the people who went through that. There was a lady who was living next to this guy. A lot of people who go to low income housing, they're not in low income housing because they want to be in low income housing. Low income housing is kind of like your last resort. Like, if you can't find housing anywhere else, or if you are making the transition from being homeless to temporary being housed, that's what the low income housing is for. So for some people, it's like their first place that they can get after maybe being homeless, or living in a room for so long. So it's like a dream to have a place. It can be a dream. But as I mentioned before, all these, just like it's a dream, it could be a freaking nightmare, and you can have a monster next to you. Okay? You can have a monster cutting people up all night, and you're listening to that, and that's going on next to you. And if you think that won't fuck you up psychologically, like, I'm telling you, that'll fuck you up in a whole different way. But you need to ask yourself, where the fuck was the manager in that situation? Okay? So when I first started now, so this goes to the story about the serial killer. So when I first started off, I was managing an apartment in Berkeley, and there was so there was like a caregiver. Okay, it was this lady. She's a much older lady, but it was like a caregiver, and she would, I guess they were looking for her for homicide. Like, she would kill the people she was taking care of. I don't know, like, serial killers, they all have like a different way of doing things, but in some of them, it's like an elderly abuse type thing, where they will neglect a person who needs to be taken care of long enough, and the person will die. Okay. And so that's what this person was doing, and this person had a history of it. And what was most fucked up is that I didn't know anything about this, right? But at one point, the police showed up. Okay, and I still got the detective's number too. But the police showed up, and he was a member of the homicide unit. And they explained me the situation and what was going on, and then they showed me her picture and said they were looking for her. And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, she's here." And he goes, "Oh, where does she live at?" And I said, "She doesn't live here. She's taking care of somebody." And it was like we had a moment, the detective and I, where he kind of just looked at me like, "Are you fucking serious right now?" And then so we went to the unit, and we secured the resident, and we saved the resident, and I never saw her again. I think she might have seen us and she skipped town, or I don't know what happened. To be honest with you, my interactions with her were very, very limited. Maybe once or twice I talked to her, and only in passing. I would have never suspected that the whole homicide unit is looking for her for basically being a serial killer. Like, that was a fucking serial killer. you know, and you would never realize it too. I had no idea. Like I said, I only talked to her like twice. And one time I think I said hi and we talked about like the weather. And the other time she asked me like, "Oh, can I get another light bulb?" or something like that. Very, very minor conversation. I would have never known had the detective not came into my office and showed me the file and showed me her picture and given me the and showed me his card too, that he was a member of the homicide unit, and that's what they were investigating. So you never know. It could be a trip. I mean, I don't really think about it that much. And like I said, I'm not trying to scare you. Look, if you follow my videos, one of the most important things I talk about in my videos is maintaining your physical fitness and maintaining your mental health and maintaining your routine. And to be honest with you, like if you do all those things I'm telling you, nobody's gonna fuck with you. I mean, you got to think like a serial killer. Like, you think a serial killer is gonna fuck with somebody who could probably kill them, or are they gonna go and target someone who's weak and who's weak, who can't do anything to them? You know, you need to look at those two things, and that's why it's very important. And don't not even a serial killer too, just a bully in general. You think a bully is gonna come and bully you if you look like you're gonna kick his ass? Or you don't even have to kick his ass. You just look like you might stand up for yourself. You really think someone's gonna mess with you? Versus if you let people just do things to you, and as time goes on, that starts to show in your demeanor and the way you carry yourself, then you're just setting yourself up to be a victim. I mean, nobody wants to be a victim, but there are things like fitness, spirit, emotional fitness, physical fitness, spiritual fitness. Those are things that can help you and mitigate these things, you know. And also, you know, you're leading your people too, so you can't show that you're scared of these things. You know, these things can't scare you, honestly. These things are kind of just part of the job, you know. You never know who you're going to meet, but in the spirit of Halloween, yeah, it's crazy that those things can happen. I think going back to the Jeffrey Dahmer though, I think they should really investigate where the hell the manager was at, because I think out of the whole thing, that was the only unrealistic thing, to be honest with you, because you can't be doing all those things next door and not get kicked out of there. You know, after a bunch of noise complaints, after being weird for so long, after people complain about you too much, you're gonna get evicted. Okay, so you know you can't. That is the only thing that I thought was unrealistic, that he was doing this for years and nobody realized it. You know, where I was in my apartment, as you know, as soon as she got there, I think it was within a few months that the detectives were after her, and they were after her, and she was moving around, and they were chasing after her too, trying to find her. So realistically, I think maybe Hollywood got it a little bit fake. Realistically, things move a little bit faster. But I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't. Don't let it scare you, honestly. You know, it's not it's not something that I think about every single day, to be honest. You got more important things about, you got more important things to worry about. Matter of fact, we're planning to do a haunted house for our residents. That's another thing you can do for your residents too, is you can make a haunted house for them. You can put some candy out for them. All about community building, you know, getting into that Halloween spirit. I dress up on Halloween. On Halloween, I come to the office dressed up. I was an astronaut last year. I might show the costume on my page this year. Be something different. So, but that's the Halloween video. That's what I wanted to tell you about the time I ran into a serial killer. Happy Halloween. Talk to you soon.